Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to the Breakthrough Series. I am Meg Church Smithson, which is still new to say. I have kind of built this platform with a purpose, and it may not be what you think, but there's so many people that we idolize and we look up to and we see their forms of success, but we don't see the trenches that they went through. So the purpose of this is to really dispel that myth. There is no such thing as instant success. We got crock pot cooking kind of success going on here. So I'm having fun people on to talk about their battles, how they broke up with the inner bully, and who they're becoming. Before we start, I will say I am a life coach that focuses on relationship repair work with yourself and your romantic partner. So I think this is really fun to really build connection with other people that think similar and that lead a faith-filled life, like my guest here, my beautiful guest, Paula. So Paula, tell them who you are and basically what we're going to do today.
Yeah, so my name is Paula Kirkpatrick, and my life, I guess where am at in my life, I've been married for 27 years, which just does not even seem possible, right? And some of those were good years, some of them were not good years, right? Like anybody else, they see the white picket fence piece of it. But I also have 4 grandchildren, so I am a GG, it just brings me joy. Our girls are out of the house, married, all of those good things. But I am also a $1 million sales director with Mary Kay. So that's what I do, a big piece of my day. And what I like to tell people about that is it really is my vehicle to impact women. Like that's, to me, the title that you will see is Mary Kay Sales Director. But what that means to me is that I get to impact and encourage women on a daily basis.
And she really does, guys. Like some people say that no, like you live, breathe, and love to just connect and to impact and to inspire and to lead women. And I love that. I always think it's kind of fun to say with people that are on here how we connected or how we met. And I was like thinking about that. I was like, okay, I think it was through a friend of mine that I met who came to give me a makeover.
Yep.
Mary Kay.
I think I was doing the same thing. I was like, how do we actually meet? And then I started doing yoga with you.
Yeah. So we went there, and then she's like, oh, I have some people. And then I used to teach yoga from my old studio that I built in my house. And you guys used to come during the day, and I would teach all your Mary Kay ladies.
Yes.
And we coached a little bit. And then I also came and led your ladies at your mother-in-law's house. So it's just crazy to like look at all that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love. I think our lives, some people I feel like you're just supposed to be connected.
Yep.
I don't know what that always is going to look like, but you're just supposed to be in each other's lives.
Yep. You're one of those people.
Yep.
All right. So part of the fun part, like I know this may sound strange to people. I love hearing people's battles. I love hearing what resilience muscles you built along the way, and to give people hope that like they too can do that same thing, and to quit doubting themselves or hiding back the struggles and shame, and really just shed light on those. And so I want you to dive into some of your battles that you've faced.
Yeah, I think the first one, I was trying to think like one of the things in my life that I felt like I really struggled with was I did not graduate from college. Now, there may be a lot of people out there that didn't graduate from college, but at least when I was growing up, like everybody went to college. Whether they graduated or not was a different story. Right. And then there was definitely the season of, I felt like every successful person I met graduated from college. And looking back now, like I can tell you today that like really, who cares? It does not matter. But there was absolutely a season where that was a huge mental battle for me. It was a story that I told myself was going to impact my future success. And that I should be ashamed of it. Like when people would get in the conversation of where they went to college, I would find myself just thinking that like, don't ask me. I did go to college, so I could come up with some stories and I could hang a little bit, but integrity wise, it did not feel good.
Right.
And I just felt like a fraud. Like like, what do I say to this? So I don't know if people can relate to that, but the stories you tell yourself, and now being the age that I am and in the place that I am, I think, really, like that.
Yeah, you waste a lot of time worrying about
A
something.
lot of time and energy. But you know what I've learned about that too, though, is I'm not responsible to meet other people's expectations, and they're not responsible to meet mine. Right?
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And so I think that for me was I took on what I thought, which were usually wrong, with other people's expectations.
Yep.
And so how that just jaded some seasons of my life that could have been so much more joyful and could have been so much more impactful if I hadn't have let that silly little thing play such a big role.
Mm-hmm. And how much energy was taken from you in time, like all these scenarios and preparation for things just in case, worst scenarios, and then it's recycling in your head and it affects what else you do.
Yes, absolutely. And it really is that, we only have so much energy. I always talk about it like dollars that we have in the day, right? And so we only have so much to spend. And so am I spending it in the best way? And in that season, I was spending a heck of a lot of energy in the completely wrong place. And ultimately, nobody really cared.
No. And there was something, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but something that came up recently, and Derek had heard it, and he's like, this is so good. It's a quote by Steve Furtick that said, decide your distractions.
Oh, so true.
Because essentially you weren't deciding. Well, you were by giving your energy there. Like you're not intentionally doing it, but instead you were deciding unintentionally that this is what your time was going to be wasted on, worried about something that didn't matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, Joyce Meyer wrote the book Battlefield of the Mind. I don't know if you've read it, but it was that that was the first book that or the first time I'd heard, probably from just immaturity, but that I didn't have to just accept everything that came into my brain, that I could filter that in a way that was healthy to me. And that was one of the stories, was that that I get to choose those things that I bring in, that I allow to impact me, that I get to distract me or not distract me, or whatever the case is. And so, yeah, there is a lot to be said for that. My mother-in-law would say, cancel. If somebody says something that you don't like, you smile and nod and go, and in your head you go, cancel. It's not really that.
You're like, no, not today. Not today. Filters up.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've had that battle.
Yes.
With college.
Yes.
I think a lot of people, that's something, again, that I don't think people always talk about, especially then. Now, it's still got the stigma, but maybe it's not as great as what it once was, since there are so many online businesses or ways that you can make way more money, way more impact, that kind of thing too. So what has been another big battle?
Yeah. I think the next one probably was I was raised in a farm community where you get married and you have babies and you're happy there. And for a long time, and you know me enough to go, all right, tell me how that went for you. But I really felt like there must be something wrong with me, that I wasn't happy with that. And it wasn't, and I don't even, happy's not the right word, but there needed to be more, that I was called to be more, that I was created to be more. And that is not a knock on being a mom. That is not a knock on being a wife. That is not a knock on any of those things. And if you are happy there, embrace that. I am just not the Pinterest mama kind of person. And, that is just, I see that and I go, oh, that's so precious. I'm happy for you. Not for me. And so it was a big struggle of, okay. And then you go to the Proverbs 31 woman and you try to make yourself, you know what I mean? You play all of these roles, again, other people's expectations that I thought that they had, that they probably didn't even have. And just trying to understand, what does that look like for me, Paula, with the gifts that I was given, the gifts that I was, I believe, given to use. And so can I be a great mom? Can I be a great wife? And can there be something else? Yeah, I believe that there can. And I don't believe that there's anything wrong with that. I think for me in certain seasons, but I think for a lot of women, saying I need to be a good mom and a wife is a cop out because it's easier there, right? Like,
no, I mean that really is true. I think that's where sometimes like the vicious nature of people trolling on the internet and putting moms
yes,
down, wives down,
yes,
entrepreneurs down, which women get that way more than men, comes
way more.
out because I think that whole notion that success is a cookie cutter model, which is so not true. Like, let's just put that out there. That's very individualized.
Yes.
Then you're right. That becomes the excuse. That becomes like the area for them to stay safe.
Yes.
And also put you down because of their own insecurity.
Absolutely. I had a friend who does not have children. She and her husband have been married for quite a few years. Like 15 years, are not having children. They chose not to have children, which not everybody has that opportunity to choose that, but they did. And she said, I have to ask you, do you think that women really are like completely fulfilled being a mom and a wife? And I said, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I would not even begin to think that I could answer that question. Right. But I do think for me, it was definitely that story that I had to overcome because can I do this and do this? And it was a challenge. Just like college, overcoming that, it was a story that I told myself that became this, not even a speed bump, like a brick wall. Like, you got to get through this first, girl, because you cannot move yourself or other people forward unless you're willing to deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy too when you look at some of these things and you see them as a circumstance. It's just neutral. Right. But we attach thoughts, which then attach feelings, then attach the results that we get, and maybe that result is just playing over and over and over again in our head. Yeah. We do that all up here, and we have control over that.
Right. It's so true. And it goes back to me. It all goes back to other people's perceptions or my belief of their perceptions, whatever that is, right? Like, I think about the analogy of putting a backpack on and other people's expectations are just weights in your backpack. But let's be clear. I'm putting the weights in the backpack. Like, nobody else is doing that. Like I'm 100% in control of that. And so when you start putting it through that filter of nobody thinks about you as much as you think about you, like, release and move on.
Yes.
They are not. They're too busy thinking about themselves. And so why do we get so caught up in that?
Okay. So I don't know if this is one of the battles you were going to talk about or not, but I think this is the battle that I think of that you have shared is the financial one that you and your husband dealt with. I don't know if that was one that you're going to share or not, but I think it's something that would resonate, and I find it super inspiring. So
absolutely. Yeah. So my husband and I had another business prior to my Mary Kay business. We did trophies and awards and meeting planning, and we had a staff and all of those kind of things. And 11 years ago, it'll be 11 years ago in December, we closed that business to the tune of $320,000 in debt. And for people who are very driven, very type A personalities, we don't fail well. I don't know if anybody fails well.
Heartbreaking death.
I mean, I can't even, now I can laugh about it. But at the time, I mean, it was devastating on a level that it is hard to explain for a lot of people, because you think, okay, so a business failed. But to us, it was like we failed as human beings. This was huge. And my husband, I'm a very driven person, but he's a guy, first of all, and it's different for guys because they're the providers, right? Like, they're the provider in our family, I should say. In our family, he's the provider, and that was his job. And he let me down, which is not true, but that's where we were. And so we sat down and we went through the math, which when it's that ugly, you just, the conversations are not fun, Just to be clear, you can't buy Q-tips at that point. And so, so you're like, what do we do? And that really was, we decided that with his income, he was going to continue to pay for or pay off the debt if my Mary Kay income could level up and pay for everything else. And because we are entrepreneurs, we could make those decisions, praise the Lord. And we decided to try to avoid bankruptcy. And I tell everybody the blessing was that we never both wanted to give up on the same day. that was our saving grace. It wasn't that we didn't want to give up, but we just didn't want to give up on the same day. And so there would be days that I'd be like, I'm done. Like, give it all back. I don't care. Take my house, take my clothes, like, do it. I'm done. And there were days that he felt the same way. And in that season, we really had to learn how to communicate in a different way. We have worked together for years, for over 20 years now, we've worked together, but that's a different place because not only were we working together, our daughters were 12 and 14. We were active in our church. We had a lot of roles we played. And now we really had to be, we've always been best friends, but it was different in that season because we had to learn that we were the only ones that were in our place, right? And so that communication is different at that point because this was not about going to a counselor. I think that's great. I mean, all of those things. It was, we were the only ones living it, and nobody else had ever lived that, right? It never happened before. So now 11 years later, here's the good to all of that, is that 11 years later, we've paid almost all of that debt off. We sold the house we almost lost. We did not file bankruptcy. And we're living in our dream home today. So yeah, life is good.
Well, I want to bring this up because I think this is a crucial part, especially in the relationship world, because prior to coming on live, I talked about having you and Kirby on at the same time at some point, because there is a difference between your romantic relationship, your partnership, and a business, and what that mindset looks like. And they are integrated. They're not completely separate. There are times when you have to separate them. But what that feels like when you know it really relies on just the two of you. And you have to put boundaries around what is going on in your life. And like you said, you're so glad that you both didn't give up at the same time. Like Derek always says, you know, if your belief is not there, I just got to let you borrow some of mine. Like you just have I'm going to put a lot more into you that day, or, you know, your belief, your faith, whatever, put it in there. And then hopefully when, you know, he's having just like Kirby, like you could switch it over. And that's the beauty of it. Like when you know that you come together and this feat looks like impossible. How do you break it down little by little? Yeah. And I think that this is like the perfect segue into how we break up with that inner bully. Yeah. Because that's like, so we talked about the battles. Yeah. But we think that the breakup piece is just going to be like that. And sometimes it is, but most of the time it took you this long to get to where you were at. So how do you break up with that inner bully, the thing that keeps telling you that you're not good enough, or you're never going to make it, you're that distraction? How do you break up with that? So what would have been some of the things that you found that have been really helpful for you to break up?
Right. You know, for me, and I say this to my people a lot when I'm training or whatever, is for me personally, I go back to scripture because I can't argue with it. I can argue with anybody, let's be clear, but I can't argue with scripture. Right. And so when it really comes down to it, and I'm really struggling, whether I go listen to Ellie Holcomb, who sings script, sing songs that are based on scripture, or whether I grab some declarations that are scripture based, or whatever it is. So there are almost every season, I have a list of scriptures that are speaking directly to the battle that I'm facing at that moment. And so it just depends, and I could probably pull them out and you would see the transition of all of that. But so for me, that's a key component, making sure that my morning routine is solid, and it starts in affirmations, scripture, prayer, all of those kind of things. Because I don't know, I think evenings and mornings are tough for people if you've got a battle, right? Like that's when it's dark is when Satan does his best work. And so so I know that I have to start my day in those places. I love, we call it, my best friends, we call it our Cheerio, but then Brene Brown had a better analogy than a Cheerio. Shocker, but she did. And she talks about a 1-by-1 box. And the people that get to have an opinion's names go in that box.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And this is not, and she says, it's not your yes people. Like, I mean, we all know people that will just agree with us, right? Or just, Meg, you're beautiful, you're amazing. Everything you touch turns to gold, you know. Actually, no. And I suck today, and I know it, and it's fine. And I just need people to speak. And so, so that 1-by-1 box, I love that concept of who is actually getting to speak into your life, not because they're the yes people, because I mean, we can find those people, but because they're the Derek's of the world and they're the Kirby's of the world that will speak truth in love. And we trust them completely.
Yeah, because it may be criticism, but it's out of love.
It's totally different. It's totally different when that trust piece is there. And I don't have to like what my husband says. Let's be clear. I do not like everything he says. He thinks he's brilliant all the time. And I think he's brilliant most of the time. But there are times where I do not agree with him. And he doesn't agree with me. And it's okay. But a lot of times he's right. A lot of times he's right. I still like it.
I don't know if it's like this, like too, but usually does it settle in later? Like for me, it has to digest, like usually overnight. And I'm like, yeah, this is an area I'm still a work in progress.
No, 100%. Yeah, he'll say something and I'll kind of get that, like, I don't know if you do this, but kind of like, And then, then later I'm like, shoot. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's talk. I'm ready now.
That's what I'm working on.
It's right.
No, but you nailed it on the head too. That's the thing, that morning routines are everything. And it's that whole, like, instead of waking up in reaction mode, this allows you to just have your calm, like ground yourself with whatever that looks like. Everybody's rituals are different. And I don't know about you, but sometimes mine go through different seasons too, based off the season that we're in. Like you need different things, kind of like vitamins and minerals. Your body needs different things during different phases of your life. So I love that.
Absolutely. And I think it's, for me, I think that inner bully piece of it is other people. Again, that's like I'm a people pleaser to the nth degree, or recovering. I'm a recovering people pleaser. But I don't get on social media. I don't get on my phone until I've done that. And that has helped huge, because then I make sure that the one that gets to have an opinion is the one that I'm hearing first thing, and not all the other things that I'm letting play into it.
Well, I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I think you would be a perfect person to talk about this because of the nature of the work that you're in. And you just said that you're a recovering people pleaser too, and perfectionist too.
Yes.
But how do you deal when that really cuts with the whole people pleasing and the rejection piece? Those two go hand in hand a lot of times. And again, it kind of goes back to what you were trying to prepare yourself for with the whole not going to college.
Right.
Preparing in advance for the pain you might feel. For someone say, "Oh, you didn't go to college?" Or the looks, or so. How did you break up with some of that, some of those natural default mechanisms that you build up to prepare your heart, from that pain?
Yeah, because I think those of us that are people pleasers often wear our heart on our sleeve, right? Like we that's kind of who we are. And so I was always the yes girl, because I thought if I say yes, then that makes everybody happy, right? Which is totally not the way it works. Like everybody, everybody. You have now made yourself and everyone else in your life miserable. Congratulations. Okay, so for me, it really is getting clear on whose opinion matters. I'm not saying I'm great at that every single day, but as soon as I feel that like hurt or that place of, oh my gosh, I screwed this up. I made this, I said something I shouldn't have, or whatever. Because I'm also great at, like, at 3 a.m. processing the same thing like that I said to Meg that literally she hasn't thought another thing about, and I'm still beating myself up over it, especially at 3 a.m. when I can do nothing about it, whatever. So yeah, so all of those things. So I really, when I get to that place, I really do think, okay, does their opinion matter? And or is there a lesson or something that I need to deal with in that? So getting to that, we know that when logic is high, emotion is low. And when emotion is high, logic is low. So I feel like I have to get to that logic place because the people pleaser in me is totally emotional. Yeah. And so I really have to go, okay, is what they said accurate? Well, they could have taken it that way, but if they really knew me, like that's not at all what I would have ever said, would have ever meant. Or is there a lesson I'm supposed to learn in this? Yes, that like I did not handle that well, and yes, an apology is appropriate. If they don't accept that apology, though, again, from a logic standpoint, that's on them, not on me. Like I can't take that on. But really just understanding that if they don't know me very well, I have to release that. And that is really hard for me because I really would love everyone in the world to like me. Like just love me. It's fine. Just go ahead.
It's crazy when you put yourself out there. I think that that's a misconception with people too, that they think when you are putting yourself out there and showing up and doing things in the world that you are like immune to that. Some people are. Some people are way more, their levels are a lot lower than mine. Yes. But it is like putting on your armor before you go out and you share sometimes. And then it's like the preparation for what's going to come back to you, whether or not sometimes it's even how you showed up versus did you not show up? Oh, you should have done it this way. Oh, you should no. It's just like no matter what you do, you're never going to please everyone. So continue to keep that mantra in your mind. Happen.
It is, and it's that. Ultimately, I am here to serve a purpose, and I'm going to do it the best way that I know how. And most of the time now, I can honestly say that I'm really clear about that. Like I'm really, really clear about that, and I don't try to meet other people's expectations because, again, no one's happy when I'm trying to meet other people's expectations. And it's exhausting.
Well, and also, a big key indicator, I think sometimes people are like, well, how do you know what your level is when you've said yes way too many times?
Yes.
Is you're going to start feeling resentful or really dreading what you're doing. That's going to be some of the first signs. But then if you keep ignoring that, like we do a car, signal in your car, it's going to turn into rage. So an argument with your spouse or an argument with a friend, you're like, where did this come from? This isn't my nature. What? And then you're like, am I crazy? Is something wrong with me? I mean, again, that's just getting to the root, like what led you to it. And maybe, like I said, it's addressing what the areas in your life you kept saying yes to and burning yourself out and not having any room left for the things you truly love and value. Yes. And just doing that as a people-pleasing form.
Yes. So something that we do with in our own lives, but then through just our people, is every month we set our top 3 priorities. And really then putting everything through that filter of, okay, if I say yes to this, Lisa TerKeurst wrote a book called The Best Yes. And so if I say yes to this, there's less for something else. Am I okay with the less for something else? And if I'm not, and so I think that's that piece, that people pleaser, that all of those pieces that roll into that are, you can only do what you were made to do, called to do. And if you're trying to do other things, there's a really good chance that you're stealing the blessing from somebody else and you're not serving where you're called to serve, right? And so if I put my top 3 priorities, and we went with this, my daughter went through a domestic violence situation. My mother-in-law or my mom was diagnosed with cancer at the same time and ended up passing away. And so we had to get really clear on there's only so much of us to give. And I am not okay with having regrets about spending time with my mom. Like when she passed away, I can honestly say I had no regrets, 0 regrets. The year before she passed away, I hit the biggest goal in my career that I'd ever hit. And I worked with the most clear priorities that I'd ever worked. I didn't work the most I'd ever worked. I worked with the clearest priorities I'd ever worked. And the same is true with our daughter. If anybody's ever been in those situations, the court court doesn't call and say, so we're looking at our calendar and like, when would be good for you to come in? They say, okay, we're here today, and 2 weeks from now, this is what you're gonna do, and this is what's gonna happen. So I feel like if you set those top 3 priorities, then you can really, again, from a logic place, not an emotional place, say yes to things and say no to things.
Well, and I think you nailed it too. Like going through major life struggles like that. Those were battles. Losing your mom and your daughter, dealing with that. As much as we don't want to go through those, sometimes those things are what leads us to more clarity, that leads us to more what we value. It really shows us like what's more important. And being able to get clear on that, you were still able to do all of those things. And like you said, live without regret and to work less, but impact more. So again, there's a blessing to all of those things too, even though we don't see it, the silver lining that you don't ever want to say, oh, it's going to get better. You know, there's listen to me. I'm just here. Just let me vent. Let me get upset. Let me question God just a little bit.
Yes, totally.
Okay, so now we get to go through like the really fun part. So all this is fun though.
I was going to say, this has been fun. Yeah.
I know. Okay, so for the fellow perfectionists out there, which you're speaking to 2 of them, recovering perfectionists, people pleasers, there is an art of showing up and becoming your best self. And it doesn't just happen overnight, just like this whole process. It's not you one day arrive and you're like, I'm here. No, it's literally showing up day after day and having that consistency just compound day after day after day, even when you're down, even when you're broken, even when you're questioning everything. And so as that happens, you're becoming your best self. You're becoming Paula, the one that God like designed to show up and be vibrantly you. So who is Paula now? I know you kind of shared a little bit, and who is she becoming?
Yeah, I think the one I am now is very aware of who God made me to be and the roles that I'm supposed to fill, because He designed me that way, not because of what other people want or need. I'm also so clear that my path is to encourage and impact certain people, not all the people. And once I really do honestly walk into a room or walk into a space and think everyone loves me, not from a standpoint of look at me, but more like let me see you. And when I release other people's expectations again, and just I am in this room to look at you and see you and hear you and value you. There's so much joy and grace and peace that comes from that place than thinking that I have to fill a role for you, if that makes sense. Like it's really just about being authentically who I am. And more days than not, that's who I am, is I'm just the authentic, real person that you see. It's not about putting on a show, and there are days without makeup, and there are days that I work out, and there are days, all of those things, but it just doesn't matter. This is just me. This is just what you get.
There was something that I heard last week that I think you would appreciate. It kind of reminds me of you saying that, but the nature of being committed to something has a grounded nature to it. So you're committed to the impact that you're going to make on millions of people and on your family and the legacy that you guys have. And then there's also the attachment that really don't matter, and that produces a graspy feeling. So it's different. So I think about like that, to me was like so pivotal, being grounded in your natural nature, where you just like people, and it's not like, again, it's not showy. Being graspy and you're like forcing things, and it just is like it's totally different energy.
100%.
That's what, like, I don't know, I just picture going into a store, one in particular I could think of, and walking in and you're just like having a really good time, and then someone comes up and attacks you because they are grasping towards something that they need from you. It's not like that at all. Like you're just, let me love on you. Let me listen. Who are you? Let me connect.
Absolutely. It's that desperation is not it's not cute on anybody, right? Right. It's just not cute on anybody. And so, yeah, when you get to that place where I don't need you and you don't need me, but I really want you in my life. And I think you're really going to want me in yours.
Yeah. We're pretty much soulmates. You just don't know me yet.
You just don't know me yet, but we'll be best friends and
Yeah,
you'll be
best friends. So what do you want to leave them with? What do you want to offer? I know you had something to give, so.
Yeah, so I am doing something really fun, and it really is from this place of we're all sitting in our homes in some form right now. Like we're in this weird world. And I really, honestly, my Mary Kay business, the whole reason I started it was to impact and encourage women. Like I was just looking for a vehicle. I laugh all the time and see my dad and my brother are both pastors, and they've got churches and they've got people that walk into those churches. I am not supposed to be a pastor, not politically correct enough for it. It's fine. I love Jesus. We're good. But I was looking for a different vehicle, and Mary Kay is my vehicle. And so I am sending out sample packs. We're calling them pink packs, to just anybody who wants one. They've got some skincare in them. They've got some facial masks in them. And really the reason I want to do that is because I just want to connect with more people. I want to bless some more people. So if it's a silly face mask, or it's a conversation that we can have over products, or whatever it is, I just want to connect with some new people. And so, yeah, we just need to connect. Facebook, you can find me on Facebook. And so Paula Kirkpatrick. And I think Meg and I are going to connect somehow so you guys can find me. But if y'all just message me, I also have a Facebook page that I can add you to that's just for my like inspiration, crazy thoughts. I post things on hippos. I mean, really like inspirational things. It's fine.
This is the real version.
The real version, yes.
Yes. Like, for real, like Paula, you're amazing. Like you really have had an impact on me. You've had an impact on people that I know that, you've led. And like I said, I've seen you with your crew. I have taught your crew. So I know the type of people, which I do miss all of them.
Yes, I know.
And it just, I don't know. It's really neat. Like you are fulfilling your calling, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to grow, and it's going to emerge with the way it's supposed to in God's timing, not ours.
Yes.
Even though we have to remind ourselves of that. Right. Oh God, can you just like tell me the destination of the blessing and when and the tracking number? I don't know if you've seen that meme.
I really want kind of a timeline. Like you'll
just tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we have to reel ourselves back in. And if you would have been given the timeline of the struggles that you went through and the ability to choose, you'd be like,
yeah. That's so true. So true.
So it's just like reminding ourselves over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on here.
Yes, it was so good to connect with you again. And I look forward to connecting with your people.
I know. Yeah. I was telling her before we came on that I want to have she and her husband on at some point too and start having some couple fun. So
fun
in the future.
Yes.
All right. Well, guys, check her out. Connect if you guys need anything from either of us. We'd happy to help you. We're little connectors. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you soon. All right. Bye.